to you. Good morning, good morning to you. Good morning, good morning. Won't you share with a friend or two? Good morning to you, you. Good morning, good morning, good morning to you, you. Good morning, good morning, good morning to you, you. Good morning, good morning to you, and many more, and many more, and many more. Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome, welcome, welcome to Daring Dialogues. I'm your host today, Shantae Charles. I want to thank you for your time, first of all, and for your attention. We are back in our two books for today. It is Finance Friday, Get Free Friday, Be in Good Health Friday, all of that good stuff. And we're going to start by reading up on some finance today from the book Moving Beyond Broke, The Power of Perseverance in Personal Finance. I was talking to a lot of people this week who are finding themselves as we get closer and closer to 2026, talking about their finances and the things that they're doing to sort of shore up their finances. And this is something that everybody is concerned about. If you are not a part of the 1% or the 0.1%, um, people are making plans to make sure that they have what they need going into the coming year. A lot of people have decided that, hey, um, I'm going to boycott the holidays. That's actually something that we have been telling people about for the last 3 years. But we're so glad that people are um, getting on the train to sort of, let these businesses and companies know that, hey, it matters how you treat people. It matters how you treat your staff. It matters whether or not you're letting them make a living wage. It matters whether or not you are preventing them from creating a union so that they have rights as workers. All of those things matter. And so whoever you choose to make your point with or make your desires known to, just know that there are thousands of people doing the same thing this holiday season. Now, I personally do a boycott and a buycott. And what that means, the buycott means that I am leaning into further supporting businesses that are small, businesses that are local, businesses that are run by people with disabilities, businesses that are run by Black people, businesses that are run by indigenous people. So my buying ethos runs along that first anyway, all throughout the year. But I tend to lean in a little bit more because I know when the holidays come, it is really important for those businesses to make sure that they are able to meet their bottom line. So while I am not doing a lot of big box store shopping, which I haven't done in years, I do lean into my small business owner, my local owners, craftsmen, and things like that. We go to a lot of the local craft shows, farm festival shows, where people are out there selling their handmade goods and crafts. And so that's the community that I lean into. I don't say, oh, I'm not buying anything, because then that hurts the small business, and then that hurts our local businesses. So that is the way that I choose to do that. You could do it another way, but I make it a point to buy from the small, the local, the indigenous, the disabled, the marginalized, if you want to put it all into one category. Okay. We are in the chapter, and then when we talk about boycotting, I know some people are saying from Black Friday, from November 28th to December 2nd. But really, if you want to actually make a full impact, you would be thinking Black Friday all the way through to Martin Luther King's birthday. hmm That's 52 days exactly from Black Friday to Martin Luther King's birthday. And take that window of time and adjust your shopping. So if you're going to go all in, I suggest go all in. And why do we say through Martin Luther King's birthday? Because we know after the sales, after Christmas, all of that, there are all of these huge sales going on, which really they're not sales. They're just them marking the prices back to where they were, okay, to be realistic. But if you want to go all out, try to do this all the way through to MLK. So think Black Friday to MLK's birthday, that window of time. Think about your shopping and your spending choices. All right. We're still in the chapter called Money Looks Better in the Bank, i.e., saving. And I was thinking about this on yesterday. The idea kept coming up in my mind that savings, having savings, um, and even if you're doing it in small increments, you're putting aside maybe $10 a week, $20 a week, $25 a week, that savings eventually becomes you being able to borrow from yourself. Because that's another thing. I keep seeing all of these bank ads, right, about people borrowing holiday money or getting a loan, a $2,000 loan, a $1,500 loan, a $5,000 holiday loan that has interest rates, right? But if I'm saving and trying to gather my funds throughout the year, when I do want to make a big purchase, I am taking from my own. I am borrowing from myself. I'm not worried about an interest rate that may come back to bite me in the top of the year. All right. So think about that. What is one reason that I might want to save? Because I want to get in the habit of borrowing from myself and not from a financial institution that's going to tack on some interest to that. So let's look at the section entitled Capable, Challenging, Creative. Capable, challenging, creative. And she has a weekly savings challenge chart here. I'm going to talk about that a little bit. She says, I still think about 16-year-old Dasha when folks ask me for help with building a financial safety net. That kid had a lot to learn, but like I said earlier, her kid-sized money concerns were still valid. It doesn't matter why we're feeling stressed about money or what our financial priorities might be. If the money feels tight, we'll resist saving because today's priorities will compete for our cash. The ironic thing is that the most important time to save money is when money feels tight. Having the financial cushion will help ease the money stress, but it's also the hardest time to save. So something has to give, and usually it's our mindset. No matter how small a paycheck might be, if you can align your spending with your income, you can find something to save. Yes, that's budgeting. I found that the key to saving is making sure you're capable of sustaining your plan, that is challenging on some level, and that you get creative with how you save. Let me break that down a little more. Capable. It would be nice to save $300 a month so you can fund a vacation in 6 months. But that's not realistic if it cuts into the cash that you need to fund your basic needs. Yes, it's a good to challenge yourself. More on this in a second. But don't sacrifice your well being for the challenge. You need to be capable of sustaining your savings plan. Challenging. Incremental saving is all about balance. Don't save so hard that you're cutting off your basic needs. But at the same time, challenge yourself to get out of your comfort zone. This will be easier to do if you're sinking funds into something that means a lot to you. A vague emergency isn't motivating, but how about aiming to save $3,000 for when your house's 20-year-old HVAC unit dies? And you know it will, likely during a record breaking heat wave. Set your goal and then get a little ambitious with your incremental savings amount. Creative. Sometimes you need to get creative to hit your savings goal, at least for a little while. If your current income truly doesn't allow you to save at a pace that can help you hit some goals, try increasing your income with a side hustle, even if it's temporary. Sell items on eBay or Facebook Marketplace, deliver food for Grubhub or Uber Eats, sell services in Fiverr, babysit, become a virtual assistant, walk dogs, clean houses. There is so much that any of us can do to earn a little more if we need to. And I know that these are things you may hear all the time. Trust me, I roll my eyes when I see them too. But I want you to consider that none of these things have to be long term commitments. Focus on the little more part. These can simply be stepping stones toward your financial goals, providing that extra bit of income when you need it most. We can always find a good reason to quit saving. It starts to feel too difficult or too slow, or we lose motivation for our big dream. Keeping these 3 points at the center of your saving strategy will help to keep your saving strategy from getting stale. Now, weekly savings challenges. Dream big, think small, in action. Weekly challenges are my favorite way to hit a savings goal. Here's how they work. Start with a small dollar amount, then push yourself to save a little more each week. The most popular challenge among my online community is the $1,000 emergency fund challenge. We start by saving $1 a week, and every week we add a dollar to our savings amount. After 52 weeks, you actually end up with $1,378. Here's what that looks like. And so, what she has done in her book is she has put the chart together. But if you are looking for her chart online, you can go to her Facebook page called The Broke Black Girl, and she has several financial challenges. If you want to raise 1,000, I think she has one if you want to raise 500, and the money amounts go up from there. But she shows you how to do it every single week, so that at week 52 you've raised over $1,000, over $1,300. This is the power of a big dream, thinking in small actions. People always ask me why I don't suggest just splitting the amount evenly across every week. In this case, that would be $26.50 a week, which is doable for many people. I prefer the incremental increases because it pushes you out of your comfort zone and gets you engaged with your finances. This isn't a set it and forget it savings approach. I recommend that too, and that's when the same recurring amount makes sense, since you're ideally doing automatic transfers to your savings account. But these challenges are a little extra. They're for a finite period of time and specifically for when you want to save more faster. Like I said earlier, this is the ultimate example of perseverance in personal finance. Many people feel they cannot save and create a strong financial foundation for themselves. According to a YouGov survey for the Economic Security Project, 49% of US adults said they don't have funds to cover even a $400 emergency. And I can tell you now, $400 is maybe one tire if you're lucky, right? $400 is maybe, I know recently we had to go to the car shop on last week, and I had to do a diagnostic on my car because my, what do you call that? The deploying symbol for the airbag, my airbag symbol kept coming on like something was wrong with my airbag. So I had to take my car in. That was not a planned expense, right? That diagnostic alone costs close to $200. Well, if you're not saving, that becomes a roadblock because, okay, where am I going to get this $200 from? This just pop up expense, right? And so 49% of US adults said they don't have the funds to cover a $400 emergency. That could be a whole lot of things. That can be needing to repair something in your house. And sometimes that just is the labor cost to repair it. That means nearly half of US adults are one emergency away from a financial disaster. Everyone needs a financial security net, and everyone can have one, even if you start small. You may not be able to save up months' worth of expenses in one year. That's a recommended end goal, not the immediate goal, but you can work your way up there. I recommend finding a comfortable starting point, even if it's 1 month of expenses or half of your largest monthly bill. It's easier to come up with the remaining 50% of a bill than it is the full percent of a bill when times are tough. I love that these weekly challenges show us what is possible and how saving money in small increments builds momentum. The reason why the popular stop buying lattes method does not work is because it encourages total and immediate deprivation of something a person enjoys that often leads to overconsumption. It also puts 100% of the blame on you for not being able to save money. And we know that there are systems in place that make it harder for some people to save. We know that this is not to be true for most people, that they're just splurging. The reality is the systems of inequality that we live in put a strain on most people. The one thing the latte method does get correct is that saving small, consistent amounts can lead to a series of psychological and financial wins over time. Psychologically, just knowing that I was making progress toward my savings goals, no matter how slowly, reduced my stress and anxiety tremendously and instilled a sense of pride and confidence that I was doing all I could to take care of myself and family. Financially, I felt a sense of empowerment and hope as I saw my savings growing incrementally, which motivated me to keep pushing toward additional goals. Like once I got my savings to a certain point, I could then take money out and start investing in things like CDs, in money markets, and Roth IRAs. It even became fun as I realized that saving added to my anticipation of holidays or vacations, knowing that I was financially prepared instead of dreading these special occasions. If you're not convinced yet, I challenge you to try out my $50 end of the day savings challenge. I'm sure this quick win will help you experience the satisfaction of incremental savings in action. So here's her challenge, $50 end of the day savings challenge. The goal is to reduce or eliminate expenses to save a total of $50 minimum before the end of today. Reach out to all your service providers to discuss discounts, scaling back services, ask about more cost effective plans that they may have that may have started after you became a customer. Cancel subscriptions that you no longer use. So, here are some things that you can do. Call your cell phone provider to check for lower rates and deals. Look over your subscriptions and cancel any subscriptions you do not use. Ask your insurance company about discounts that you now may qualify for. Speak with your bank about dropping any fees that you're paying. Check with utility providers for better rates or discounts. We do this often. If you have been a regular, consistent paying customer, you can ask, you can call your utility provider and say, hey, can you all lower my bill? Some of these utility providers, and remember, you got to ask. Some of these utility providers will say, hey, we've seen your record. We'll actually drop your bill for the next 6 months to a year by $100, $50, $200, whatever it is. It will help. But here's what we know about these companies. If you don't call and ask, They ain't going to do it. They're not going to offer it to you. But if you do call and you do pitch it that, hey, I've been a consistent customer. We know that the rates are going up on everything. This is a stressful time in our economy. Can we get a 6-month break? Can you all lower our bill by $50, by $100, and see what they say? Come back and tell us too, because we know it works in our region. All right. Here's another one. Find a coupon or discount code for an upcoming large purchase. Ask your creditors about hardship programs that don't stick you with crazy interest at the end, by the way. All right. So, what can you do with that $50 or more that you saved today? Quality of life purchases, such as a monthly gym membership, strategic financial moves, such as adding it to your investment account, savings account, or debt reduction account. Financial security expenses, such as covering a monthly life insurance premium. What can you do with $600 if you implement one $50 savings a month based on national averages for one person? Buy 6 to 10 extra weeks of worth of groceries, make an extra car payment, make 2 additional credit card payments if you have them, pay 1.5 additional months worth of utility bills, cover 3 to 5 years of a membership, pay for nearly 2 years of life insurance, afford a year of streaming services, pay 9 additional months of internet, cover for about 4 additional months of a phone plan, and even save up for any medical things you have coming up. Incremental savings allow you to dream big while thinking small and building your financial security $1 at a time. Wasn't that good? I think she gave some very, very, very helpful and practical tips to get started on savings. So that was chapter 2. Hopefully, when we come back on next week, chapter 3, banking on yourself. Banking. All right. We're hopping very quickly into our book on health. It is entitled Live Nourished, Make Peace with Food, Banish Body Shame, and Reclaim Joy. We are on the chapter called Elitism of Health and Wellness. And Sister Girl has been going in. Now we're going to cover the idea of clean eating. So this is a short reading section. The clean eating. Clean eating. One quick Google search demonstrates that there are many interpretations of what clean means in terms of eating and food. When I see examples of clean eating plans, there are some nourishing foods, yes, but it's hard to identify what makes them clean exactly. Meals that are composed of a variety of vegetables don't make a dish clean. The vegetables make it nutrient dense. I also constantly hear people say that they eat clean, and again I ask, what does that mean? Some people will say eating more fruits and vegetables, and others will say eating organic. There's no specific answer, partially because clean eating is a term that doesn't really mean anything. It's just a label anyone can put on a recipe or product to make it more attractive to a consumer. Clean food lists vary, but usually include fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and lean proteins. Added sugars, sodium, and fat are big no-nos. There's nothing wrong with wanting to get in nutrients and eating a variety of foods. But there is something about defining the way we eat as clean that needs to be re-examined. If you say that you are eating clean and other foods are other foods dirty? Food, unless it's covered in soot, isn't dirty. And using the word clean to describe food implies healthiest or purest, which is just another way to be elitist about your food. In my humble opinion, clean food means washing your produce before consumption, making sure you have a napkin handy when eating something messy. It can even mean following the 10-second rule and not eating what has dropped to the floor. It has different interpretations to us all. When the International Food Information Council, IFIC, polled consumers in June 2021 on what they thought clean meant, 21% said eating foods that aren't heavily processed. 14% said eating foods found in the fresh produce section. 13% said eating organic. 11% said eating foods with simple ingredient lists. And 9% said eating foods with ingredients they consider clean. You can eat what you want, of course, and different foods will work better for our individual bodies. But what the public needs to understand is that clean eating is just a buzzword. It's not specifically designed by any governing body or industry. So you want to look for products that have the words nutrient dense, not just clean. All right. The next time we open up this book, we're going to be looking at the healthifying of cultural foods. Ooh wee. How many of you have been to your doctor and you started telling them about some of the cultural foods that you eat and they started condemning them? That's a whole problem. But she's going to get into that next time we open up her book. We'll be on page 75. All right. Again, these are the two books we are reading from on Fridays for right now. Boom, boom. If you want a screenshot, go ahead. And boom, boom. All right. Pastor Ben, are you there to chop it up? I'm going to send you the link. All right, I have sent you the link. And while we are waiting for Pastor Ben to join us, I'm going to show you my last painting in the painting series that I finished this week. Actually, there are two. There are two. So you can go back to yesterday's broadcast and see the rest of this painting series. And see the rest of this painting series. This is the last one, the last panel that I painted. And this is called Reclaiming Power. And I'm sure that you all can probably get the gist of this. It represents humanity walking together hand in hand in love. This symbol here we talked about yesterday is the Congo cross from Congo Christianity, which makes its way across the transatlantic during the transatlantic slave trade. And this becomes a symbol of faith for believers. All right. The other piece that I did this in honor and tribute to the people of Charleston, to the early Black communities in Charleston, South Carolina. This is actually based from a historical photograph, and I chose to make it a more stylized painting. And I also chose to use the style of painting which is very popular in the Gullah Geechee culture down in South Carolina. Good morning. This is During Dialogues, and my name is Shantae Charles. All right, and so this is the painting that I did in representation of the early Black South Carolina Charlestonians, Gullah Geechee community in Charleston. All right. This style of painting is known in the Gullah Geechee community. This is a form of stylized realism. The figures are typically very, very simple. The dress is simple. The color palette usually ranges from blues to the black and the gray. And this is just symbolic of their life during that time. They were picking these particular people were picking, growing rice. So this is rice gathering and also picking up sweetgrass and wood. And this is how they would wear, this is how they would carry it on their heads. They still had some of their traditions that they had brought over from Africa. They were still carrying their goods on their heads during that time, which is pretty cool if you think, when you go back and you look at some of the historical photographs. So this is actually taken from a real photograph. And then what I did was I changed the background and added in the water and the, sweetgrass area that they go to pick the sweetgrass in. All right, and we're back. So good morning, good morning, good morning. We got two topics here: clean eating, which we know now is not a thing. We got to look for healthy, nutrient dense foods, foods that work for our bodies, and saving, small incremental saving, and the power of small incremental savings. Talk to us.
Hmm. Well, we know that what some people come along and say is not good is really good, and some of the things that they say it is good is not really good. See, we didn't have our people didn't have this problem until we started listening to other people.
Uh oh.
Now, like let's say for instance, babies. Years ago, I know this young lady. She had a baby. She was a foster kid, and the doctor was telling her, "Well, just give your baby milk, da 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 da." And I'm looking at her, I'm saying, you better give that baby some cereal in that milk. I mean, the baby's 6 months old
Mm.
and skinny. I even know that you see our culture, you start them on the cereal easy, early.
Mhm.
See, their culture, probably about 1 or 2 years old, and they start. No, see that. Listen, we ate healthy. We ate healthy. We ate things that were good for us. Now, when they brought our ancestors here, we had to start eating some other stuff that we were not eating,
Mhm.
but we made a delicacy out of it.
Mhm. Mhm.
And even at that, it wasn't so much the things, it was the amount,
Mhm.
is the amount that you ate.
And maybe the
And
preparation style, right?
right, and the preparation style also. So you can take just about anything, but I'm with you though. The nutrient full things. There was a time when I just started eating a lot of
Mhm. Mhm. Just like pork.
it takes longer to digest than most foods.
I know for our community, people say pork, right? But I was reading up on
Hmm.
pork. Pork can be good for you as long as it is a good source of high quality protein. B vitamins like B6
Hmm.
and B12, selenium and zinc are in pork. Its healthfulness
Hmm.
depends on the cut and how it's prepared, as processed
Hmm.
and fattier cuts can be high in saturated fat and sodium. Consuming undercooked pork can lead to infections, and regular consumption of processed pork can be linked to health risks. But if you're not eating pork every day, right,
Hmm.
then it contains 9 essential amino acids needed for muscle growth, for muscle maintenance and your overall body function. So you have to think about how much of this am I consuming, right?
Mm-hmm.
The older people, our elders used to tell us all the time, baby, everything in moderation.
Yep.
Everything in moderation. You can have a little bit of taste of this and a little bit of taste of that. But when you start, gorging on certain foods, that's where you start running into the problem. Um, Pork can be a part of your balanced diet when it's paired with vegetables or whole grain. It can contribute to a healthy and balanced plate for all ages, but you just have to pay attention to the saturated fat part, the fattier cuts of pork like bacon and pork belly, right? That can be detrimental to your heart health if it's consumed in excess. So,
Mm-hmm.
but who is using pork belly? Who's eating pork belly all the time, right? Black people, we are good at seasoning our vegetables with some pork belly. All right. So they will use it a lot of times as that seasoning, as that oil to bring out the flavor in whatever we were cooking. Um, and so when people go back and they say, well, how did our elders live so long? They were eating these things, but how did they live so long? It was how they were eating them a lot of times,
Mm-hmm.
and the fact that a lot of them were not eating like that every day. So we
Right.
have to keep those things in mind. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. So but many of us are going back to what our ancestors were actually doing as we find out about them and getting away from the Eurocentric type things that they say are good for you. And then we find out that they're not good for you. So,
Like,
but yeah, we need to.
go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I was saying like milk, right? We saw all these ads about milk and how milk does your body good and all these other things, but then people realize, wait a minute, there are a lot of the population of black people that are lactose intolerant. So yeah, milk might be doing your European body good.
Mm-hmm.
Might work out just fine for you. But other people have serious, dairy product lactose intolerant issues with milk and didn't find that out until later in life that a lot of their problems were because of what they were consuming, what they were drinking as children. I know a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
now that are just completely they're lactose intolerant. They shouldn't have been drinking it in the first place. And of course now we have all these options. We've got almond milk, we've got oat milk,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that's not cow's milk. We have options now. But before we didn't. Everybody was just expected to drink it because you were told it was good for you. With some people, that just was not the case. Go ahead.
Melanin. That's one of the huge differences, and there's so much connected to melanin, and we have to deal. I'm not even gonna say we have to deal with our melanin because that's a blessing. That's a blessing. The melanin is a blessing, but we have to understand our melanin. We have to understand where that places us, and we have to understand that there are things that we can do that others can't do, and yet there are things that we can't do, like milk, that others can do.
Yeah, when I saw how
Cause
many
I,
how many black people were lactose intolerant, I was like, that's very interesting. Here's
hmm
another one. When people say focus on nutrient dense traditional foods, um, this is what I started doing maybe about, I would say, 6 or 7 years ago. I started switching things out in my diet. So, for example, when it comes to beans that are nutrient dense, I started eating more lentils and more chickpeas. Vegetables and greens, um, continuing to eat collard greens, right? That's a staple in a lot of African
hmm
American diets. It's rich in vitamins. So I didn't have to change that. Whole grains, though, I switched from, I wasn't really eating a lot of white rice. So I eliminated whatever white rice was in my diet. But I switched over to quinoa. Now, quinoa is a little bit more expensive, but you can go to some places, I think like Trader Joe's, that has it where you can buy it by the pound or whatever. Um, but it's rich in fiber. If you want to stay with rice, you can go with wild rice. That's a better option, which is a whole grain rice. When it comes to fruit and nuts, I've always been a person that loves fruit and loves nuts anyway, but building meals around fruits and nuts and seeds, um, adding nuts to your meals, almost like as a season or as a garnish. I started doing that, adding more nuts into what I was eating. Same thing for my husband. So those have been like some immediate switches that I did, that we still do, that I can definitely see a difference in. The latest thing that I have stopped, I haven't stopped altogether yet. I'm kind of like slowly weaning myself, is getting rid of cheese altogether. Now, obviously, if I eat something, if I go out and I order lasagna, there's no cheeseless lasagna, right? I'm gonna eat it. Um, but I have noticed, and this is like going on week 3 now, going into week 3. I have noticed that my energy is better, is up.
hmm
My clarity of mind, I'm feeling a little bit more clear in my mind, once I have gotten rid of the cheese. And I'm noticing that my uh, subcutaneous fat, as they call it, that fat around the waist, is starting to go down. Now, I am pairing that with a prebiotic and a probiotic, to work on my gut health. But I am noticing that eliminating cheese, because I love me some cheese. I was putting it on everything. I was putting it on chicken and cheese. You know, put some cheese on your salad. Have some cheese and cracker, like cheese, 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 cheese. And so I said, let me slow down on the cheese. Let me start eliminating it from most of my cooking, and see what that does for my body. Because I was looking through, women in their 40s, and what might be um, causing you to hold on to weight around your waist. And cheese was one of those things. And I said, because I was like, oh, I've eliminated the other stuff. So let me try cheese and let me see what happens. And sure enough, I'm starting to see the change. Now, again, that is what works for me. So I'm not advising people to do exactly what I'm doing, but I would say go to your doctor. If you're especially a woman over 40, think about the things that you are currently eating. Go look up things that can help you as a woman over 40, things that you might want to investigate and examine that you're eating that you might need to eliminate from your diet if you are worried about gaining weight around your middle. Okay? Because when I looked at the list, I was like, I'm not eating half of this stuff, but I am still eating cheese. So let's try that. And I am starting to see a difference. So I wanted to share that.
Okay.
Now, when it comes to savings, what do you want to say about that? Incremental savings.
Well, I'm for it. I know many people make a mistake by trying to save a whole lot at one time. I'm going to, well, this paycheck I'm going to take out $300 and I'm going to put that away, and and it doesn't happen.
Mhm.
If you do a little bit at a time, let's say you eating McDonald's every day. Let's say you cut it down to 3 times a week.
Mhm.
You know, that's that's $50 basically
Mhm.
in a week.
Mhm.
So you can do it that way. There's small things that we can do to save money. So uh, in today's age, you order out a lot.
Mhm.
You got Uber Eats and all that stuff, and I know people that'll do that just about every day.
You know, I have never used DoorDash and I've never used Uber Eats.
Hmm. Me either.
I like to go get my food because that's definitely one way to make sure that I will curb my spending. If I have to go get it, I'm going to curb my spending because either I got to have the energy, have the time
Hmm.
to get in my car, go drive somewhere, order it, pay for it, wait to pick it up. That in and of
Hmm.
itself cuts out how many times I want to do that.
Listen,
And so I'm not even going to
I
get invested in Uber and DoorDash. If I can't go get it, then what does that force me to do? It forces me to go in my cabinet to see what it
hmm
is I have here to eat and to make at home. I eat, I would
hmm
say we probably eat about 80 to 85% of our meals we eat at home because I cook. I cook maybe twice a week. We eat leftovers. I know some people say, I hate leftovers. I can't stand We
Ooh,
love leftovers.
me too.
I love leftovers. Why? Because I cooked them and I know that it was good when I ate it fresh, but I know it's going to be even better
Even better. Yep.
when all of the seasonings settle into the food.
Hmm.
So I
Hmm.
am I am not a person that's like, oh, I can't stand leftovers. I have to cook something fresh every day. No, I cook twice a week, and we eat leftovers. And sometimes we'll save our leftovers, and we may go out for dinner if we are celebrating. Now that's a key. We do like to have celebratory dinners. So if we win in a lot, if we winning a lot, you will see us having dinner a lot. Um, but other than that, we try to keep eating out to a minimum, maybe once or twice in the week. When it comes to
Hmm.
eating out, like just going out for lunch, we usually grab some salads. If anything, if we're gonna get anything to go, it's usually a salad. So, you know, as you said, you can start thinking about how many times you're going out to eat a week and what is your average takeout bill, and then multiply that by one or two and say, this is how much that I'm going to be putting aside. The same money I would be going and spending every week, I'm just going to cut out 1 or 2 days, put it aside every week for the next 3 months. Do it for 3 months and see how much money you put aside. When you get to that 3 month mark, add another 3 months. See how much money you've saved
Hmm.
by putting that money aside. When you get to the end of those 3 months, go for another 3 months and see where you're at. So again, just do it as I would say do it as quarterly. You know, she talked about the day to day. Okay, if you feel like maybe I can't keep up with it day to day, but maybe if I hit it quarterly, like I said, if you know you're spending $10 to $15 a meal per week, a day, if you cut out 2 days a week, that's $30 a week. $30. Let's do the math since we up here. Okay. All right. So $30 a week times 4 weeks. That's $120 a month times 3 months. That's $360 in that 3 months times four. That's $1,440 in a year. If you just cut out two $15 meals a week, you will save $1,440 for the year. That can go toward anything, really: a vacation,
Mm-hmm.
a car payment, a medical expense, medical emergency that could come up, anything. And that's just two meals a week at $15 per meal. Two meals a week for the whole year, and you will have saved $1,400. So be thinking about it
Mm-hmm.
that way. Final thoughts.
Two thoughts. Uh, let your heritage. See, there are different heritages, and the food affects them what differently. Uh, and that's what we should base what's healthy for us on mainly. How long did your ancestors live doing this stuff? If they lived to be 100, what's wrong with what they did? Let's go back to that.
And then
And
also too,
spending.
though, Pastor, we have to take into account that the way foods are processed now is
True.
different than what our how our ancestors were partaking in their food. So,
Mm-hmm.
like my aunts, my family on the Georgia side, the men tended to not live long, but it was mainly due to like environmental stuff, war, that kind of stuff. It wasn't, they didn't die because of health. The
Mm-hmm.
women in my family, they're living well into their 90s, 100, past 100. And then, but I go back to what are they doing with their food? A lot of them grow their own food, they cook their
Mm-hmm.
own food, they can their own food, right? So they're not being inundated with a lot of the stuff we are now being inundated with in our food. So that's the other part. Like the writing was saying, it also goes back to how you are preparing your food, how you're ingesting your food, where are you getting your food from, too. That makes a difference.
Mm-hmm. And I know people now that are beginning to actually grow their own produce.
Mm-hmm.
So that helps. Now with the spending, we have a little, even though prices are getting higher and higher, we still have a certain amount of control over our spending.
Mm-hmm.
We can do that. Me myself, so I can get by on one meal. Depends on how my day is going.
Mm-hmm.
I'm working. I, I'm not eating most of the time. So I may go a whole day and just grab something on the way in, or get home and then do a little cook or something. Unless I've cooked and then, as you said, there's leftovers. So all of these things. See, and I'm like this: don't eat just to eat.
Mm-hmm.
If you're hungry, eat. Many people don't eat because they're hungry.
Mm-hmm.
They eat because they can eat. They could afford to go buy something to eat. Or they like certain things and they say, well, you know what, I'm gonna go get this and only eat part of it and put the rest up because they were not really hungry. They just wanted to eat. So that's what eating until you're fat as a calf at a stall. That's what that means.
Mhm.
Eat, get full, stop. Eat when you're hungry.
Yep.
So
So I'm looking at a research here, and I'll show you guys the article so you can go and look it up yourself. This is an actual research. It's called Dietary Consumption Practices and Cancer Risk in African Americans in the Rural South. And it's talking about specifically um, people in the rural South. You know, a lot of where most of us, our ancestors, landed, right, or come from, even though they might have moved to other parts of the country. And it's talking about how they took a sample of African Americans in the rural South and they began to look at the diet and what was increasing the risk of cancer in African Americans. And they said the consumption of variety of fruits, non-starchy vegetables, and unprocessed cereals in daily meals, frequent consumption of fried foods, fast foods, sugary carbonated beverages, high fat and high sodium foods. These findings were crucial to the development of an increase in cancer. And so they have down here food preparation methods, whether or not you're consuming enough fruit and vegetables, and then combining that with high sodium diets, um, high starch diets, and fried foods. Again, these are things that can be adjusted when it comes to our health. But guess who contributes to some of this? Just guess. Who contributes to some of this kind of eating that we shouldn't probably have going on? Yeah, but in terms of our own community, who feeds into us eating some of the things we shouldn't be eating and doing it on a regular basis after 10 p.m.? Huh? Who? So when you combine some of this unhealthy eating with late night gatherings, with um, the rigor, right? The rigor of ministry, you got a combination that's not helpful. And I don't know if people recall or remember a couple years back, it was like several high profile black men in churches in their mid 40s to early 50s dying. I don't know if people remember that, but there was a season where it was like every week somebody in their mid 40s to early 50s was dying. They were either dying in the pulpit or they were on their way home and they had a heart attack or whatever, a stroke or whatever, and they died. And this went on for several months. And I was like, what in the world is going on? And then I would go and look at some of the posts, try to figure out what had happened. And some of the people would be like, oh, they were really this, they were really hardworking, they were really diligent, they were always on the go, they were doing this. I was like, oh, they weren't resting.
hmm
They weren't resting. They were a part of the gig life where you just going, 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 service after service after service after service. You're not resting. You're not eating properly. You're eating late at night. You're not getting the nutrients that you need to in your body. And the bodies are giving out.
hmm
And so, And these are, like I said, these are pretty young guys. Some of them married with young children. So now your family doesn't have you anymore. And I specifically remember a couple of cases where you can go back on that person's page and you can see all the events they were at leading up to them no longer being here. And it was church event after church event after church event. Because one thing we
Mm-hmm.
know about some of these religious institutions, they will use you up with no
Yep.
regard, with no regard for your need to rest. Because as long as you can show up and put on and perform, they will keep calling you. They won't ask you, have you rested? They won't ask.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't tell them, they won't ask. They'll just assume because they see you that you're ready to go. And at some point, you definitely have to develop boundaries around those things. I know that wasn't the topic today, but that's where we're ending. This has been another episode of Dan Dialogues, and I've been your host today, Shantae Charles. I want to thank you for your time and for your attention. And if you are a Black American, I want you to make sure that you're paying special attention to your diets. Start doing inventory now. Start thinking about what 2026 you is going to look like. And if there's things that you have to eliminate, there's things that you have to lessen in your diet, go ahead and start thinking about that now. Don't wait till after Thanksgiving. Start thinking about it now so that when Thanksgiving hits, you can start saying, I'm going to have just a little bit more, a little less gravy. I'm going to have a few less slices of sweet potato pie because that's my favorite. Over the Thanksgiving holidays, I can eat at least 2 or 3 sweet potato pies. I can. But I ain't gonna be doing that this year. Okay? Now we're not talking about 2 or 3 sweet potato pies in one day, people. Okay? Calm down. We're talking about between November and December. But still, that's a lot of sweet potato pie. So I'm gonna have to I'm gonna slow it down. I'm gonna slow it down. But you know, start now and then start weaning yourself into a better you for 2026. Do it for yourself. Don't do it for anybody else. Do it for yourself. All right. This has been another episode of Daring
Yeah.
Dialogues, and I've been your host today, Shantae Charles. I do want to thank you for your time, your attention, your views, your subscribing. Thank you all for those of you who are continuing to join our page, grow our subscriber base. Um, Thank you. And then Sunday we will be back here at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Apostle Robert has been going in on an economy of excellence. He has been going in on that topic. And so you do not want to miss that segment. Light is the most daring opposition to evil. To evil. I know sometimes we associate evil with darkness, but darkness is darkness and evil is evil. So it's the most daring opposition to evil. And we encourage you to go out and be what, Pastor Ben? Light.
Light.
Be light. Take care, everyone. Thank you, Zorro. And thank you, Anters, for hanging in here with us this morning. Take care, be well, and most importantly, be